Hello humans, I am the Black Cat, and today we finish off the Re-Animator trilogy with Beyond Re-Animator. During the events of the last movie, Bride of Re-Animator, one of the reanimated bodies wanders off and ends up going to a house that's next to the cemetery. At this house is a young boy and his sister. The reanimated person ends up going into the house and killing the sister in front of the young boy. The boy then sees Herbert West being arrested. As he's being put in the police car, West drops a syringe with the reagent in it and the boy picks it up. Cut to 13 years later and Herbert West is still in prison. Being locked up hasn't stopped his work though. He's been experimenting with the second phase of reanimation with the help of rats that are around the prison. The boy, Howard, now grown up, has become a doctor and goes to work in the prison as the prison doctor. He requests Herbert West to be his assistant. He tells Herbert about his sister and how he desperately wanted to bring her back to life. He tells Herbert that he wants to work with him so he can save people from death. So Herbert West takes the opportunity to get back into the swing of things. Meanwhile, a journalist named Laura is at the prison doing a story about prison reform. Her and the young Dr. Howard meet and end up getting involved. Herbert warns Howard that she's trouble, but of course he doesn't listen, just like Dan, who isn't in this movie by the way, because according to Herbert, Dan turned state's evidence against him. So Dan ended up betraying Herbert in the end, but no matter, because now he has a new prodigy. During his time in prison, he's found a way to restore cognitive reasoning in the reanimated bodies with nanoplasm. This was definitely a problem before, with most of the reanimated corpses being mindless, dare I say, zombies. But Herbert West has found a way of extracting the consciousness of a living being, or in this case a rat, and then injecting it into a newly animated rat. So the reanimated rat then seems to be okay, but they're not quite right. Upon Howard's arrival, one of the inmates suffers a heart attack. He's taken to the infirmary, but ends up dying. So Herbert injects him with the reagent, bringing him back to life. He of course attacks everyone and the warden sends him to isolation. Meanwhile, Laura has decided to do a story on Herbert West. While researching, she decides to go and interview the inmate that was reanimated. He attacks her, but the warden comes in and busts her for trying to use him to get a story, and the warden ends up killing her. So she ends up in the infirmary, and Herbert convinces Howard to bring her back with the reagent, which he does. But at the same time, the inmate that was already reanimated gets out and somehow makes it back to his cell. A fight happens and a guard is taken down, so the prisoners manage to get out and start a riot. West tells Howard that he can put the rat's consciousness into Laura, making her normal again. Howard argues that he can't because surely putting the consciousness of a rat into a human isn't the same as rat to rat. But as they're having this conversation, the warden comes in and finds her alive. Sort of. There's a fight and the warden is knocked out. So West gets the idea of taking the warden's consciousness and putting it into Laura. So she becomes kind of possessed by the warden, who is a psycho, and she takes off. Howard goes after her, leaving Herbert alone with the body of the warden. So Herbert West does what Herbert West does, and he reanimates the warden and injects the rat consciousness into him. Laura kind of goes on a killing spree as she tries to run away from the rioting prisoners. Howard does find her, but he kind of goes nuts as well, or to use the best line from a movie ever,
"Guess boy's cheese slid off his cracker."
In the confusion, Herbert West is able to walk out the front door. This time around, it looks like they had more time and money to work on this movie than the last one. The visuals are crisp, the effects are fantastic, there's a lot of use of practical and I think green screen, but done in a very effective way. There was also some use of puppetry on rats and a certain appendage that shall remain unnamed. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But the special effects are used really well, I thought. They didn't distract from the scene, everything blended well. There was even a half-man reanimated person that looked really effective, I thought. Nothing like the last movie. My favourite scene would have to be at the end. There's actually two scenes that stood out for me. The first being the last scene where we see Dr. Herbert West walk away into the night. What will he get up to next? It's such a great final shot for our hero. The second scene that I really liked was the bonus scene that played with the credits. There's a silhouette of the reanimated rat, I guess boxing with the appendage that I mentioned before. It's a funny little scene that's just played for laughs, and it works. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. The story flowed nicely from the last movie. There was a new element introduced in the conscious transfer, which I think was a good inclusion. If it was the same thing over and over again, it might have become a little tiresome, but this new element allowed for more interesting reanimations. Plus, it wasn't just thrown in from nowhere. Herbert had been working on it for over the past 13 years. But most importantly, Herbert West was still the mad scientist we know and love. So would I watch Beyond Re-Animator again? Hell yeah, I would. It's a good movie all around. It's gory and humorous, but it doesn't go too far into the humor. But anyway, let me know what you think of this movie if you've seen it. If you haven't, I definitely recommend watching the whole trilogy. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!